Hey folks, it's Mary. We are back for part 2 of looking at some anti-pilling worsted weight acrylics. So I asked in the first video if there were any particular brands that you wanted me to look at, and Premier Anti-Pilling was one of the very top ones, most requested. I have never worked with this yarn before. I waited for a good sale from Hirschner's. They have a anti-pilling acrylic. They're also, their sister company, Willow Yarns, has an anti-pilling acrylic. And then I just happened to be at Walmart one day and saw that they had an anti-pilling acrylic. So these are the 4 that we are going to trial in this video. So as with the last time, I have some stats. I have them already written up just to compare the different yarns from the beginning. So everyday worsted in the anti-pilling from Premier, I am using the color Orchid. In our Walmart variety, I have the color Charcoal. Now I will say when I was at Walmart finding this, there was black, white, charcoal, and then there was a hot pink and a minty green, but those 2 colors were so similar to the last video that I did, which I will have linked in the description below if you're interested. So this was the one yarn that I thought, hey, I'll do a gray rather than a black or a white or repeat colors there. So Orchid, Charcoal. In the Willow wash, this is the color Gold Mine. And then in the Hirschner's, it is the color Juniper. So this is what we are going to be working with. I am going to follow the same protocol as I did before, get all my stats here, and then I'm going to make the same pattern of hat in each of these yarns, and then I am going to put them through the wash 3 times, washer and dryer. I'm going to ignore the specific instructions here, but just do all of my washing as I would with my regular children's clothes or family clothes. I want to test out how these yarns are going to perform over 3 different washes and tumble dries. So for our control variable this time, I took the opportunity to try out a yarn that's new to me. This is Hirschner's Basic Worsted Yarn. I got their size 3. And that again is a 4 weight, it's 100% acrylic, and it has a little bit more yardage than the others, but it's not really about that. It's going to give us something to compare a non-anti-pilling or non-low pill against these that have that claim. So this is the color Honeysuckle. It is very beautiful, and yeah, I'm looking forward to working with all of these. Base stats here, we see that in terms of yardage, to begin with, Walmart has the best yardage, and the Premier Anti-Pilling is a little bit more yardage than the Willow and the Hirschner's. In terms of price, Walmart obviously wins, but the other 3 I did get from Hirschner's, so you probably could find Premier at a different price elsewhere, but I was only getting 1 ball of each of them just to try out, so I waited for a time when Hirschner's was having a good sale on shipping, and that's why all those prices are the same. These 3 yarns, the Premier, the Hirschner's, and the Willow, are not easily accessible to me. I can't just run to a store and find them. I can't find them locally, so I do have to include shipping, and your shipping might be different depending on your day. So now we are going to find out the wraps per inch to see how they stack up there, and we're also going to weigh these yarns and find out their actual weights without the ball band, not just what the ball band says. Alright, so here we have our wraps per inch, a little bit different but not too bad. Sometimes the yarn just gets fluffier in a process, and just because a yarn has more wraps per inch doesn't mean it has a higher weight. So here's where we're starting with. Let me go make those hats, and it'll be a little bit for me, but it'll be instant for you. Alright folks, I just finished weighing up my hats. I do have them all done here. As you can see, they look pretty similar. This one from Willow Yarns, that one looks a little bit looser maybe than a little bit thicker on the Walmart. But yes, I have all of these done, and I did weigh them up. I did figure out about how much yardage is in each of them. I did not do the regular Hirschner's yarn because that one is just my control variable, so I didn't really worry about the yardage and the stats on this one, but I will want to look at how it performs in the wash. In terms of how we are doing, we're kind of consistent. You can see that The yarns that are a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner, it's kind of reflected in how much yardage it took for each of these patterns. I did my best to keep my tension the same throughout, so a little bit surprising that there is some variation, but then again, there is some variation within the yarns themselves in terms of what I determined to be their wraps per inch. So now what we're going to do is we are going to take a quick look at how these hats are appearing before they go into the wash. So with the willow yarns, I don't really see any big fuzzies on it. I think it looks pretty nice. Maybe across the top you can see a little bit of fuzz there, but pretty insignificant. I would actually say the same really for all of these. They seem to perform pretty well in the hand, just a little bit different in terms of the thicknesses that I could feel. You know, you can feel a slight variation in some of the differences in a worsted weight, but again, that's reflected in the wraps per inch. In terms of which one I enjoyed working with to make these hats, I would say I like the softness and the drapiness of the willow yarns. You do see a little bit in the Hirschner's, a little bit of fuzz there. Not too bad, but of course this green is my favorite color, so how much does that count for? You see a little bit of fuzz across the top there as well. And then with this Premier yarn, I think it was pretty middle of the road. It didn't seem particularly drapey, it didn't seem particularly thick. It was a really nice yarn to work with. So nothing really too much stood out from the yarns as I was working with them. The only real difference was there is definitely a fuzzier, softer texture. You can even see just along there the fuzz right there in your basic Hirschner's, not advertised at all as anti-pilling, but yeah, a little bit of extra fuzz there, a little bit of extra softness, and you can see that even right now there's slight difference between this and the anti-pilling yarns. So let's get these in the wash and I will meet back up with you at the end of this experiment. Alright, we are back and I have the results. I have done my 3 washes and 3 dries, but before I show you the results, I do just want to point out one special thing. On each of these yarns, the Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Worsted, like new, wash after wash, machine wash warm, tumble dry, normal. For Hirschner's Supreme Worsted, it says machine wash and dry. For the willow yarns, it indicates that you can machine wash and dry. But with the Mainstays yarn from Walmart, it does say do not bleach, do not tumble dry, dry flat. So you can machine wash it, but dry it flat, which is not something that I did. So I treated all of these the same. And let's see the results. First, we have our Premier yarn, our Premier Anti-Pilling. And you can see when these first came out of the dryer the last time, they were very staticky. There was lots of fuzz on there. But overall, it's not too bad. It is a little bit fuzzy, but it could be a lot worse. The yarn has softened up a little bit, but it was already pretty soft to begin with. But yes, you can see how fuzzy it is on the edges there and then along the edges of the hat. So not really pilling per se, but definitely some fuzz happening. Number 2, let's look at the Hirschner's, which was the green. And so again, you can see that there is a little bit of fuzzing happening. You can see that along the edges as we turn this around, but on the brim of the hat especially, with that darker color, you can see how fuzzy that really did become. Now let's look at the willow yarns. And again, quite a bit of fuzz there. So not really pilling as in creating little pills per se, but yes, it is fuzzing up quite significantly in my opinion, but it seems to be kind of no more, no less than the others. Let's look at the Mainstays yarn as well. And maybe it's ever so slightly different, just a little bit less fuzzy, a little bit less pilling, I suppose. But in general, in my opinion, I think these all performed pretty much the same. Now, I did have a control variable, and that was the basic worsted 3. It's the same as the Hirschner's worsted 8. It's just I got the smaller ball. And this was not an anti-pilling acrylic at all, and you can see that it did pretty significantly fuzz up there. But if I'm honest, how much of a difference does this actually make? So if we look at all 4 of these together, I can't really tell a huge difference between these 4. And there is enough pilling on each of them that maybe it's not worth getting an anti-pilling acrylic if I'm doing one of these. So let me know what you think about that. Again, this one, this honeysuckle color, this kind of koi pond coral color, not touted at all to be anything except a regular acrylic yarn. And I treated this just the same as all the others. Just as a final comparison, here again was our pricing. Walmart yarn was definitely the least expensive with the most yardage. The Premier Anti-Pilling was a little bit more yardage for the same price at Hirschner's, and the Hirschner's Supreme Worsted and the Willow yarns were the same price for the same yardage. My question to you is also, how important is anti-pilling to you? Do you see this as a significant difference that you would spend a little bit extra for an anti-pilling, maybe get a little less yardage per ball? What do you think about that? Now, I do want to show you one more thing. Let's just compare to the first set of anti-pilling yarn. So as a baseline, I had Red Heart Super Saver, super pilly, and just for fun, compare it to the Hirschner's Worsted. Do you think those are comparable? I think they are. So is there a preference there between one or the other? I think that the Hirschner's yarn started out a little bit softer on the get-go, but once they go through the wash, it's still a little bit softer, to be honest, but this is not as accessible as a Red Heart might be. So we have our Red Heart and our Hirschner's as our baseline, but then I had Lion Brand Anti-Pilling. I had Joann's version of their low pill or anti-pilling, and that actually performed better, I thought, than the Lion Brand. And then I had the low pill fiber from Hobby Lobby, and that hardly pilled up at all. Now compare these three to the 4 from this most recent trial. What do y'all think? I know some of these have stronger reputations than others. Some brands we have some brand loyalty with perhaps, but I'd be curious to know if you had to choose an anti-pilling acrylic, which one would you go for? Would you go for it based on color? Is it helpful to you to see that some of these might perform a lot more similarly than you think? Would you go for something that's a better price? Let me know in the comments below. I've had such a fun time doing these 2 videos. Again, these were the worsted weight acrylics that I could get my hands on either easily through just what we had on hand or through a single Hirschner's order. So let me know in the comments what you think. Are there other anti-pilling acrylics that you'd like me to try? Perhaps something in a DK weight? If so, do let me know. And if I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.